get to discuss things.
Let's go ahead and get started then. Hi everyone, welcome to another Geeky Gentleman character discussion on this holiday month. I am Santa Part 2. Joining me today is...
the real Krampus.
Ah, there you go. You go. So yeah, we're here for a character discussion day, and I actually picked this one. Christmas characters, bit harder to pick characters related to the holidays. So I picked one of the last good ones that we have open. I picked Ebenezer Scrooge. So I guess I'll just ask you, Mano, since I asked you to join this. What are your thoughts on A Christmas Carol in general?
Well, I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said? I mean, it's one of the classic, literature stories. And definitely about Christmas, which was a theme that Dickens hit a few times, and this was also there was also another theme he hits where he was not the biggest fan of rich people and how they did not care much for the poor. That was those were two themes that seemed to pop up, and this is probably his most famous work. Is because it's a nice conglomerate of what he liked to do as far as a writer. And of course, Scrooge is, of course, possibly maybe one of the most famous redemption stories. Mm-hmm. Where even someone as horrible as this might have some sort of some bit of hope in the pit of their heart. So that this is someone who wrote a lot of pretty villainous upper class type of rich miser characters. So I don't know. I don't know where this came in his career. So I don't know if this was him going, maybe there is a couple of these scumbags who might be changed if I can do that. I don't know. When this story is done well, it's always kind of grabbed me because there's a couple here and there, like the George C. Scott one. I think I thought was really good. The original, one of the original ones in black and white. I can't remember who's
it's so hard to remember because it's been done a million times.
Millions.
Every television series that's run for more than 2 Christmases has done a Christmas special where it's aping on Christmas Carol.
Yeah, you could guarantee, when I was growing up, especially in the 70s and 80s, you could guarantee one sitcom would do the Christmas Carol story where a character is oh, I don't feel much like Christmas. And then they go to bed and have a dream that the other characters are the Christmas Carol characters, and it's Jesus Christ, man.
It's every time. I remember there was a Flintstones episode that did the fucking Christmas Carol story.
Oh yeah, Family Ties did that.
Yeah. Hell, even shows will do it more subtly. There's an episode of Arrow called Three Ghosts, and it just takes place at Christmas. They don't really pay attention. They don't draw too much attention to the fact that it's around Christmas, but you just see the trees and stuff in the background, and Oliver Queen's getting visited by 3 ghosts. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, the idea of the Christmas Carol is something that's very close to me. It's between the Christmas Carol and the Grinch as far as favorite Christmas movies. Really, no lot, or favorite Christmas stories, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Those are, and they're such similar stories, so there's probably something to be said about me in that, but whatever. We're not here to psychoanalyze myself.
No, let's do it. This is actually My
This
trick.
is an intervention.
It's an intervention. Steve Baxi and Keir Slow are about to come on. We're going to talk to you.
Okay. Sounds good. No, so there's just a lot in the story of the Christmas Carol that really gets to me, and of course it's kind of hard to talk about Ebenezer Scrooge divorced from the Christmas Carol because it's one of the few things that there's not a sequel for.
Yeah.
There's multiple versions of Scrooge, of course, but there's really nothing outside of the story of A Christmas Carol to talk about Scrooge with, right?
Yeah, it's public domain, and I'm actually partly surprised why more people haven't picked up on the idea of like seeing what happens to Scrooge afterwards. The only thing I can think of is an SNL sketch.
Oh yeah.
Which did a bit of the Christmas afterwards. The next year, where he's been super nice and super great. He's been spending way too much money on helping people. But I can't really. Yeah, it's almost surprising how much this story has been mined for adaptation and not just adapting, but interpreting. People doing other things with the characters. And yeah, no one's really kind of like picked up on that. Like, okay, what was he like the next day? Did he go back to being a dick, or was he only like cool on Christmas and he was dick the rest of the year, or did it really have a profound change on him? Which I think that was, and it'd be interesting.
There's that line usually at the end of the adaptations which say like for the rest of his life he was known as one of the kindest men ever, especially around Christmas or something.
Yeah.
So, especially with an ending like that, it's kind of hard to do a sequel that's going to be worth any interest. But then there's always like the problem, like if you do a sequel, you really risk just ruining the message of the first one and just making the first story over again. So what's the point?
True.
Is one of those things. So yeah, Scrooge is just one of those guys who kind of kicks around and gets like really easily adapted for other things because I think everyone's kind of felt that way, especially if you've like worked retail through Christmas. It's just like, fuck this holiday sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like that more and more every holiday. Let me tell you something. I have worked at a movie theater and I have worked at a video store back in the 90s, and they are open on Christmas Day. And both instances where I worked, Christmas Carol was playing there. And there is a little bit of me thinking of the irony about like how this movie is like, oh no, Bob Cratchit has to work on Christmas, and then it's my job on fucking Christmas to rent you a movie or something like that. It really used to irk me because sometimes customers would walk in the store and act like they're on our side, like, oh man, it's terrible that they make you work on Christmas. Like, I am here because of you, asshole. If you didn't come in, I would not have to be here. So, spare me your pity.
Yeah, so like I do think that's pretty relatable. If you work retail, it's a lot easier to just get like done with Christmas, to just get so wrapped up in the negativity and of course it's not that Christmas is a happy-go-lucky holiday and people are just negative. No, there's plenty negative about Christmas, but there's plenty that doesn't have to be as well. And so I think Scrooge kind of gets to that part in everyone, which makes him so easily adaptable to other things, because usually, like, one of the main characters in a sitcom tends to be a little cynical, and, they always, like, crack jokes at others' expenses, and, if you met him in real life, they'd probably be a bit of a dick. Looking at you, Tim Allen, the Tool Man, and whatnot. Or, no, Tim Taylor was his character's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, shit like that. Like, they're dicks in real life, but like it works because you're on their side in the show. And so like that character usually gets adapted as the Scrooge. Like we we highlight all their negative aspects, or sometimes not even adapted. Sometimes they don't actually fall asleep. Sometimes they work the three ghosts thing in as just happening in real life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's kind of interesting how Scrooge becomes such an exaggeration of that, or the original Scrooge is such an exaggeration of that cynicism around the holidays or just in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
You know? So I like that about him.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, it does kind of combine the type of people we hate versus us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then there's like the other side of it that I quite like, because you mentioned like, oh, maybe Dickens finally thought, okay, maybe these guys aren't all evil on the inside, they've just had a hard life or whatever, and it's kind of turned their heart to stone. Because one of the things I find interesting about Scrooge is the Christmas past is always so damn like simple but tragic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's never anything gigantic. It's never, or at least to my mind, I can't think of anything that's like overly evil or hateful. It's just he slowly gets. Usually, you see him just slowly become obsessed with a thing. Like, I can't remember which version, of course, but like, I remember like ones they go back to school when he was a boy in school, and he was always so happy and joyous and friendly to everyone. And then he just keeps going and getting buried deeper in his work, and he just alienates everyone around him and gets so lost in the minutia that he forgets to like live. And then like the people that he was friendly with leave him because of that. And so he loses any support system and becomes more bitter because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, I don't know, man. That's very understandable, especially as I've gotten older. I've noticed that I've like lost friends, and it's not like anything like, you know, oh, fuck you, I never want to see you again. It's just like, yeah, we just stopped talking regularly, stopped seeing each other regularly, stopped hanging out, and so now I'm sure if I ever saw one of them, we'd be like, oh, hey, how's it going? And we'd talk and everything, but we're not really friends anymore.
Yeah.
And there's something sad about that, and there's something that kind of hits home about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all had that. We've all had a couple friends that tiny little droplets kind of like affect us. And I think that's one of the cleverest things about the novel is, you know, he didn't superhero origin it where there was one major bad thing that happened to him that screwed him up forever. No, it's one of those things where it happens over time. You really don't really notice it. Things kind of get slightly worse and you get used to it and you move on, and time goes on and it kind of evolves that way. And you jump cut, you know, 20, 30 years later and you're a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, I just thought that was really interesting. Did you read Batman Noel by chance?
I did not. I think that was... Oh, did Batman Noel come out after New 52?
It was post New 52.
Post New 52? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did not read it.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, because that one paints Batman as the Scrooge. Superman makes a fantastic Ghost of Christmas Present for what it's worth. But, like, that has a really interesting interpretation, in that there is no Ghost of Christmas Future. The Batman Noel has the interpretation that seeing all the ghosts and everything was just a big last-minute hallucination of a near-death experience, and the quote-unquote Ghost of Christmas Future was Scrooge dying momentarily. Essentially, is what that argument becomes. Because usually when Scrooge sees the Ghost of Christmas Future, it's never anything. It's just, oh yeah, you're gonna die. And it's like, you're gonna die and you're gonna be alone when you die. And that's it. And so like that's usually like kind of sad or whatever, but it doesn't For me, at least, it never carried as much of the same impact. But then I read that in Noel that like the Ghost of Christmas Future is just the experience of dying, and I really like that interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what's so harsh about it. It's just the cold reality of it. Like, hey, look, no matter how rich you are, no matter how powerful you are, you're dead, and life goes on. Nobody cares. So you might as well do something, help people to make things a little bit better while you're here, even in small ways, if you can't do it in big ways.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's one of those things I find just absolutely amazing about the story of Scrooge. Is it's such a simple thing that straightens him out in the end, because he's always so negative for the first two. Like I'm still unconvinced that after Christmas Past and Christmas Future that Scrooge actually would have reformed. It is, or after Christmas Past and Christmas Present, Scrooge would have reformed. It is that realization of, I'm going to be alone and there will be no one to mourn me, that really, really works for me. That one just knocks it straight out of the park.
Well, it's just the first two ghosts pretty much butter him up and get him kind of set up for the last one, which is the one that, is supposed to nail it for him. And, that's kind of what happens.
Okay. Do you have a favorite version of the Scrooge story?
Oh boy. I really like the George C. Scott version, which was was an 80s or 90s. I think it was a 90s TV movie. I thought it was really well done. George C. Scott was a great actor, and there were some really touching moments in it. There's some really nice, stark, kind of creepy moments in some of the film. I think that's probably my favorite. I keep thinking the old black and white version. I think that's Richard March. I know. Damn, I can't remember the actor's name, but I think that's the one that's in the original one. Those are generally my two favorite ones. Of course, the Bill Murray Scrooged is interesting.
Yeah, I love Scrooged. I was going to say Scrooged is mine because what I really like about that one is, even though he's the one making the play, he still doesn't get it. He's sitting there and he's commercialized the meaning of Christmas. He's commercialized, and yet he doesn't even comprehend it. Is something I really, really like. So just like it, Bill Murray seems even further gone than any other version of Scrooge I've ever seen. And that's what makes it so satisfying, is he is just, like, Scrooge was always a dick, but he didn't want to staple antlers onto a mouse's head. Bill Murray is just psychotic at that film.
There's a minor bit in there. There's not a character like this in most other versions, but oh God, Bill Murray's boss in that film, played by Robert Mitchum, is great, because he's this weirdo executive who's over him, who owns the company that market film TV shows for cats. And this moment where they cut to a scene between him and he's talking to him, and then we cut back to Bill Murray, and he's like kind of like smushed back into his seat, like really freaked out. He's like, yeah, what do you think about that? Yeah. That always makes me laugh for some reason. And let's see. Oh yeah, I think the not the March version of Christmas. I actually just Googled the one I was thinking of. Oh, it's not even like I thought it was in the 40s. It's a 1951 Scrooge. It was kind of a musical.
That's weird.
Alice.
It was what?
Oh yeah, it was let's see, it was 1951. It's real. God, I haven't seen that. Ugh, that's a long, long time. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I remember that was the first version I ever really watched.
Hmm.
Yeah, I used to confuse it sometimes with the 40s version. There's a version like every 2 years, frankly.
Pretty
I think
much, yeah. I mean, like we said, it gets adapted to death. So there really isn't a like I think a lot of people's favorite version is probably going to just be the version they saw the most growing up or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Um, what was that movie? I think it came out just last year. It was like The Man Who Invented Christmas or something. It was about Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. Did you watch that by chance or no?
I did not know. I assumed you may have seen it.
No, I hadn't. I was curious about it, and like I didn't hear anything about it, good or bad. Is the thing. I knew it existed,
Hmm.
and I don't know. Like that seemed like a really interesting premise for a movie, and I like this. I remember the scene from the trailer where he's like sitting there trying to think of a name, and then he gets to Scrooge, and then Scrooge appears, and I'm like, that is a really great moment because the name Ebenezer Scrooge tells you everything you need to know about this character. um, like, it's so hard not to think of like the crotchety old
Hmm.
man bent over in the coat and the top hat and everything when you think of Scrooge, but like it's hard not to imagine that that's exactly what you would think about no matter what. You
Yeah.
know? Like I'm kind of sitting here. I'm like, yeah, I can't. Maybe it's because I've seen so many versions of Christmas Carol where that's what he looks like. But like, legit, I could not conceive of Ebenezer Scrooge looking like a silver fox or anything. Like with a name like
Uh,
that, he was kind of destined for that look.
I don't think we've gotten a sexy Scrooge yet. I guess
Oh,
that's
there we
coming
go.
eventually.
Okay, now you and I need to go to Hollywood, Manos. We've got this on lock. We'll
Yeah.
give people the sexy Scrooge they've all been waiting for. The one
Yep.
they didn't even know they wanted. Oh.
Oh, I was confusing my Scrooges again. It wasn't the 51 that was a musical. I think it was the 1971. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The 71 with Albert Finney was the musical one. There's so many, I can't like keep track of them.
I think it's impossible to. There's like so many that I haven't even seen all of the major ones. I
Yeah.
still haven't even seen the one with Jim Carrey.
I've kind of avoided that one.
Yeah?
Yeah, that just does not look appealing to me. I don't like that art animation style.
Yeah, with the whole motion capture of the faces and stuff, it is a bit off. It's weird that they did it twice with Christmas movies. I don't know why that choice was made. Um,
I feel like I don't know. I feel like with Christmas movies, you're oddly allowed experimentation sometimes.
because
It's like,
people
hey,
know
it's
it'll be
Christmas
able to
movie.
sell for years and years to come, no matter what.
That's right. It's like, hey, it's Christmas movie. Come see it. Okay. Oh, great. Let's pull out some experimental shit with this one.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. All right. What else can we talk about with Scrooge?
I suppose we could talk about his relationship with maybe Tiny Tim and how
Okay.
that's like really important to his change because of course that in a lot of different versions of this that's one of the key elements of turning him is he realizes that Tiny Tim doesn't have much time left just like he does and he kind of makes that connection with him and a lot of versions kind of like pretty much go with the idea that yeah Tiny Tim ain't gonna live much longer anyway. This might be his only Christmas or last Christmas I should say.
That's
Or
not the interpretation I usually see. I usually see that if if Scrooge doesn't start paying shit, what's his name?
Bob Cratchit.
Bob Cratchit more, than Tiny Tim will die because they won't be able to afford like surgeries or medicine for him or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the way I usually see it interpreted.
Yeah, that's true. Although it's Victorian days, that kid's dead.
You think so?
But hey, it's good that he tries.
Fair
I
enough.
I may have gotten a little bit darker on Christmas over the last 10 or so years. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know, like the thing for me, the reason I think that like Tiny Tim becomes so like the reason I think Tiny Tim usually gets to live depending on if Scrooge turns or not is the thing he usually asks the ghost Christmas present is, and the boy, will he make it? And the ghost usually says, not if he continues like this, not if he can't eat, not if his family can't keep warm, he won't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I usually see is like, it's not necessarily that like he's going to get completely better or whatever. It's that he can't be cared for. They can't afford to care for him if on the budget that Scrooge has allotted them for the wages and stuff. So I don't know. Just one of those things. I guess you can take it however you want to take it. If you want to make it dark as shit, go for it.
Yeah, the last decade of retail is probably dark in my opinion. Like, yeah, the kid's dead.
Yeah. No, like I feel you, man. I worked retail at Goodwill for a number of years there, and man, just one Christmas away from it felt great. Now I'm about to be on my third Christmas away from retail, and yeah, it changes your whole perspective on the season because suddenly you start getting days off and and all kinds of stuff.
You go shopping, it's a pleasant experience.
Yeah, because like, oh, I'm just gonna do this real quick. I don't have to be here around this forever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe if I get out of this kind of universe, I'll dislike Christmas much less.
No, I mean it's totally it. Like, oh, Christmas music's awful, but if I don't have to hear it all day, it ain't bad. It's not the worst thing ever if you don't have to hear it all day nonstop.
That's true.
Oh man. So
maybe we can relate a little bit more to Scrooge.
Oh no, like I said, I think Scrooge is as enduring a character because I think we've all been there. I think we've all had, like, who hasn't had a bad Christmas? You know?
Yeah.
Who hasn't had just a shit, like, have you ever said some shit about someone in your life and like immediately thought to yourself, man, that's really fucked up. I can't believe I'm being this negative right now. And like you just it's that distance and stuff, and I don't know, the story of the Christmas Carol kind of gives the ultimate distance that he could possibly have.
Well, there's so much pressure in Christmas, especially modern Christmas, and to be happy, enjoy, celebrate everything. Put the family together, make everyone happy. And I don't know, when you try to force that much happiness, you cause people to kind of rebel in that way. So it was probably quite different in Dickens' time, but that material is seemingly in the story with Scrooge.
Humbug.
Exactly. And he's kind of let it spoil him over the years, and so yeah, that's one of the things I find so relatable about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful story, and it really is kind of like I think the imprint for a lot of Christmas stories going forward from it, right? Like, it's not that there weren't Christmas stories and tales beforehand, but like a lot of fairy tales, they're probably kind of fucked up. And Christmas Carol kind of gives you the sense of what everything kind of becomes, how they all try to wrap up happily and actually teach people a lesson and stuff like that. It's very much a moral tale.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot going on in that kind of sets the tone for years and years forward. That being said, it's okay to divert from that from time to time.
Yes.
Certainly wouldn't mind that. But no, I get it. It makes sense. It's a good formula if nothing else. Okay.
Yes.
Well, normally we do recommendations, but we've kind of already talked about some of our favorite versions of A Christmas Carol, and there's no real other thing to recommend for Ebenezer Scrooge. So, guess we'll just throw that one out the door and go ahead and wrap up. So, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time. I'm the Christmas philosopher.
And I'm the crotchety realist.
All right. And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!